Pledge allegiance to the
the
flag
flag
United
of the United States of America,
to the
to
republic
the republic for which it stands, one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first order of business tonight was going to be the subdivision of Pabco, but they are asking to postpone the meeting. So number two, do we have to read anything into the record for that? Or
Nope.
it's just
Nope, just acknowledge it, that it will be continued to the next meeting.
yes. Special permit application modification Nozzle Properties of South Main Street LLC. Can we hear the call for that, please?
Special permanent modification application of Nozzle Properties of South Main Street LLC, care of Anthony J. Pizzone Esquire, for Zone Ryan and Ricciuti LLC, 2 Town Center, Cheshire, Connecticut, 06410, for a change in internal traffic pattern due to DOT request. Property located at 944 South Main Street, Cheshire, Connecticut, 06410, as generally shown on Assessor's Map number 78, lot number 159, in a C32 zone.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I have comments from the Cheshire Fire Department. I'd like to read it in.
Please do.
Dated April 26, 2021, Planning and Zoning Department, from Jack Kasner, Chief, and Mike Kozlowski, Fire Marshal. Subject 944 South Main Street. The Cheshire Fire Department has reviewed the above application for the planning and zoning process. We recommend the following comments and stipulations. If this application is approved, code compliance plans must be submitted to the building official and fire marshal's office prior to the commencement of construction. While item 1 is 1 fire department approved emergency key box will be installed and maintained at a location approved by the fire chief or his designee. Number 2, the site is designed as challenging for emergency vehicle access and maneuverability. The applicant shall work with the fire department to provide mountable curbing and reduce size islands to allow safe access and egress of emergency vehicles from the site. And number 3, with the recommended changes by DOT, additional areas will need to be constructed of mountable curbing. We're happy to work with the contractor to achieve our mutual goals. That's it, Mr. Chairman. No other comments from anybody else.
Okay, thank you. And Attorney Pizzone, I assume you're representing the applicant?
Yes, I am. I'm, again, for the record, Anthony Pizzone. The commission will remember that this property received a special permit approval back on February 8th. And sometime thereafter, the Department of Transportation finished their review and required some changes to the internal traffic plan. Darren Overton is on, I believe, and he'll go over the changes with the commission.
Good evening, everyone. Darren Overton from SLR Consulting, here on behalf of the applicant. So we normally submit, and when we go through the planning and zoning or local approval process, when we have a project that's on a DOT roadway, we normally submit to them when we start to go through the process. Normally it's handled with the district office, but it's my understanding because this comes out to a signal on the state highway Route 10, it was sent up to the Newington office, which has taken a little bit longer in the review. So what we normally see is 2 or 3 weeks maybe with a review for the district office. Took a little longer in the process here. It was about 2 months before we got feedback. And as it turned out, we had already had our local land use approvals, and many times the comments that we get back are minor. In this case, there were some more significant changes that DOT was asking for. So the most significant of which was they asked for further separation for the drive-through exit lane from the main entrance. So what the driveway was on the western side of a utility pole that exists out there now. So we simply shifted it to the other side of the pole to create more separation. No real change in the circulation, but just provided the separation that they asked for. Also, the first 2 angled spaces that had been permitted, the parking spaces in the parking that's closest to Route 10, they had some concerns about the turning movements. and the lack of separation to the entrance drive. So they asked us to eliminate those 2 parking spaces. And then they also commented on pedestrian access. They wanted a more formalized access from the sidewalk, particularly because there's a crosswalk and a PED signal that connects this property across Route 10 to the shopping center on the west side of Route 10. So they wanted to see a more formalized access way from that crosswalk into the Starbucks. So we added a sidewalk along the southern property line and a crosswalk that connected in with an existing walk and crosswalk that was previously approved.
Yeah.
The shift in the exit from the drive-through also required a shift in the parking, that shared parking that exists over on the adjacent Rite Aid parcel. So we shifted that a little bit to the west, but maintained the same number of parking spaces over there. So from a circulation standpoint, the circulation is exactly the same. There's no change in the stacking, and there's just some minor shifting of the exit for the drive-through. None of the alignment changes really change how the site functions or the adjacent parcel. So all the traffic is still coming through the signal, and we are still eliminating the curb cut on the south side of the site, which DOT was pleased with. So that's the majority of the changes. If there's any questions or other details that the commission would like, I'd be happy to answer them.
Anyone have questions for
Yes.
Mr. Overton? Mr. Ricardo?
When you're pulling in from Route 10, it looks like you can possibly curve around to go to, when you go into Rite Aid or CVS, whatever's there. Is there some kind of signage on that corner that there's traffic possibly coming out from Starbucks? Where those like 5 little trees are on that area? Yeah.
Darren, it's Dave's here, Dave Sullivan from SLR. When somebody's coming in, the person going to Rite Aid has the right of way. Coming out of the drive-through, there's a stop bar, a stop sign, and a warning sign not to block the oncoming traffic. So it's a clear right of way for the Rite Aid patron.
Good, thank you.
Any other commission members, questions?
Dave Sullivan, this is Anthony Fazzone speaking. Dave Sullivan, while you're at it, can you give your comments concerning the changes?
Sure, I think Darren actually outlined them pretty well. They're thinking with moving the driveway to the other side of the pole. And the benefit of that is if you take a projection of the median island, the traffic is now coming out on the outbound side of the driveway. And they thought that was clearer and easier to keep the middle area that we were just talking about, keeping that clear and not getting it blocked. So their main concern with that comment and the comment of eliminating those 2 parking spaces all had to do with blocking incoming traffic. And these 2 changes clearly address that, and quite frankly are an improvement in the traffic flow from what we originally had. The sidewalk, I think, connection speaks for itself, but it's obviously it's good to keep the pedestrian environment connected. That's all I got.
Okay, any other commission members with questions?
Quick question, if I could.
Tom?
Is there a net loss or gain of spots? It looks like you lost 1, gained 1, and then in the front with the new cuts, you lost a couple. Is that correct, or?
Yes, for the record, Anthony Fazzone again. Bill, can you put up the floor plan? Starbucks submitted this floor plan. It's part of their documentation to apply for a building permit. They've changed the configuration a little bit so that there's more service area and less customer space. The result is that there's 23 parking spaces required, and there are 23 parking spaces provided.
We have verified that, by the way. There is a change in what was originally submitted. This is not unusual. Construction documents show that they have decreased the customer area, which has a higher ratio of parking needed for it. The service area has a lower ratio, obviously fewer people there. So they are on point with the number of parking spaces shown on the plan. The requirement is 23.
Thank you very much. I was just curious. It's lots of nice plants and trees, but you know, parking is parking.
But they are in accordance with the reg.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
I'm in a planning and zoning Zoom meeting.
Okay, any other commission members, questions?
Call me later.
Bill, do we have anyone?
Yeah, one more, EJ.
Do we have any comments, Suzanne?
No public comments.
Okay,
No.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Bricado has a question.
How many employees work here at one time, and where they park, like behind the Rite Aid?
I'm sure Rite Aid will designate the parking for employees. I think that is taken into consideration based on the size of the service area. But I don't know the exact number. I don't know. Joe Nozzle is on, but I don't know that any of us know the exact number of employees at any one time.
Yeah, Anthony, this is Joe. I don't know the exact number of employees. Never asked the question.
Yeah, I was just curious and wondering if Rite Aid over there, if they allowed that, if that was taken into consideration.
I think most of the employee parking would be on this site rather than in the shared parking.
Okay.
Just to finish up, the fire comments are acceptable, and the Mr. Nozzle developer will certainly work with the fire department to work on the concept of the mountable curbs.
Okay, great. If there's no other comment from commission members, we will be closing this public hearing. Everyone all set?
Thank you.
Thanks, Jerome. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the public hearing.
Motion adjourned.
Second.
Moved by Rolo, second by Mr. Bricado. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Moving right on, I'm going to call to order the regular meeting of the planning and zoning for Monday, 6/2021. Can I get a motion to accept the minutes from the public hearing and special meeting from April 12th, 2021?
Motion to accept and approve both.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Bricado. Any discussion, corrections, comments about the minutes? Sensing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining?
I'm abstaining.
Okay.
Matt
Mr.
Bowman.
Mr. Bowman is abstaining and Mr. Kaderis is not here. So we have Mr. Selma and Miss Downs was voting in their place, Marilyn.
Thank you.
We do have some communication stuff. I was just gonna take my liberty to jump ahead and we can do Nozzle Properties.
I do have a motion, Mr. Chairman.
I'd like to jump ahead and do that, so at least they don't have to hang around if they don't want to, so.
Yep.
Um,
If I may,
please.
special permit modification, Nozzle Properties of South Main Street LLC, 944 South Main Street for changes to internal circulation required by the Connecticut Department of Transportation. The Cheshire Planning and Zoning Commission find that the changes to the layout at 944 South Main Street required by the Connecticut Department of Transportation as shown on plans entitled Proposed Starbucks Restaurant, 944 South Main Street, Cheshire, Connecticut, revised through April 26, 2021, are consistent with the requirements set forth within Section 40 Special Permits of the Cheshire zoning regulations, and hereby approve this application conditioned upon compliance with comments from the Cheshire Fire Department dated April 26, 2021.
Move staff wording, Woody Dawson.
Moving Mr. Dawson, seconded by
Second.
Mr. Strollo. Discussion on this motion. Okay. Seems like reasonable changes to me.
Yep.
If no one else has any other discussion, call for a vote. All those in favor? signify by-
EJ, before you call for a vote.
Yeah,
Do we
let's
have
have,
an alternate for this motion?
so
Kaderis.
in Mr. Kaderis's spot, we will have Mr. Anderson voting.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yep, I've got it.
All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Okay, so let's jump back up to communications. We have a letter from Arnett Talbot, which is the 5-year capital expenditure plan and annual capital budget. We have to read
Mr. Chairman,
that into the-
you guys had seen that previous to that. We did get this early this year and mailed it out to you some weeks ago.
Yeah.
I do have a motion with respect to that.
Is everybody comfortable with that? Everyone had a chance to take a look at it?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, let's hear the motion.
The Planning and Zoning Commission find the proposed fiscal year 2021 to 2022 5-year capital expenditure plan and annual capital expenditure budget for the town of Cheshire is not in conflict with the plan of conservation and development. This shall constitute the commission's report relative to review in accordance with section 8-24 of the Connecticut General Statutes as required by section 7-2 of the town charter.
Move staff wording, Woody Dawson.
Move by Mr. Dawson, second by Ricardo. Any discussion on the motion?
Who is the alternate for this motion?
The alternate will be Ms. Downs. Any discussion on this motion?
Pretty self-explanatory, I think.
Get it every year.
Yep.
All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Motion carries unanimously. All right. Okay, number two, we can continue our discussing on the zone text amendments that we're thinking about for the storage and warehouse distribution center, trucking facility. It was, again, some comments were in our packets about a potential proposal. And I guess just anyone that wants to start the discussion, unless Bill, you have anything?
Not really, Mr. Chairman. I know that the commission, some commission members have some concerns about different sections and so forth. All I can tell you is what I presented to you was options for your consideration. I try to make them as complete as I thought that the expectations from end users might be. It's really up to you guys to decide what policies you want to have. We included the servicing option. You guys are the ones that have to determine that. So I try to be as complete as I thought was appropriate for discussion. It's in a draft form. You guys have to decide what you're comfortable with and what you'd like to go to public hearing with at some point, if at all. So if you have anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer them as best I can. But that was really the approach. You guys, part of my job is to give you guys choices. And I think that's what we did. You decide which choices you're comfortable with and how you want to proceed, and we will proceed as directed. So,
Okay, at the moment, I see Mr. Strolla, I think was first with a hand up, then Mr. Mercado. That's all I see on my screen, but anyone else that has any comments, of course, just speak up and we're all able to talk about this. So go ahead, Mr. Strolla, you have the floor.
Well, first I'd like to address, feeling that I think this is needed for the interchange zone. After the pandemic and, supply and everything's kind of changed and warehousing is becoming a huge thing now. It was already starting to, but now with mass delivery of all different types of goods and services. And I think Cheshire could be proud that we have supplied a lot of New England with food through one of our local companies, and that I see things going that way warehouse wise. So I want to thank the staff for going forward with this and getting things ready for us. Appreciate it very much.
Sure.
I did read through it, and I'm very happy with what I see. Thank you, Bill, for adding the stuff with the dealer and repair stuff. I like that, and I'm kind of excited for this. I think this is a great thing to do up in the north end. So thank you.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Mercado, I saw your hand up too.
Yeah, with the 48.2H, where we say associated with,
Yeah.
I'm not comfortable with that. I'd be more comfortable with owner owned and operated, not associated. I think it's still open to let trucks from other companies come in there and say, hey, while I'm here, can you service me? I don't think that's fair to other companies that are out there. I would like just that verbiage cleaned up, so it's only whoever has that property, whoever has that facility, their trucks are the only ones that are worked on, or if they're tied with another company tightly and they're part owner or something like that. But the associated just seems too vague for me.
Would you want an explanation of what it's supposed to mean?
Yeah, that's what I want.
No, I don't like things that have to have explanations. I like them to be clear. Say owned or operated by. And
Well,
that's you don't need a
that's
definition.
different clearly than what was intended.
Business,
So,
right. You can't ask him that.
Gentlemen, can we have one at a time, please? I need to understand this. So,
Yeah,
one at a time.
Woody, I'll give you the floor next. Mr. Mercado has the floor.
All
So
right.
let's just,
So
it's
that's
tough
fine.
to really tough to Zoom, because the Zoom, any little comment that gets picked up, it jumps to you, and then we can't hear Rob. So it just, I know it's these Zoom meetings are not fun, but it's just, we have to get through it. So.
That's fine.
yeah, to me, it's too, the word associated is too open-ended. If it said right there, owned and operated by, I think that would clarify it. I'd feel much better with that than having to have something where you need a definition of what that word is, and it can be, constrained any way you want later on down the path.
no, but Rob, I understand your point, but it can't be constrained any way you want unless you intend it to be done that way.
And that's my intent. It's owner, it's
Well,
either.
I understand that's
operated
your
by.
intent, but I want you to understand why it was written that way.
Okay,
Okay?
go ahead.
Let me explain. Okay, and then again, the commission, you guys can decide, but the operators of these facilities generally will want to service their own vehicles, no question about that. Not all of them, but some of them will. I don't all, but some of them will. So we want to allow for that possibility. The other one was what was associated with would be for vehicles that were coming to or proceeding from directly that facility. That's the association. It's not intended to permit anybody riding down the highway to pull in and be able to get their vehicle serviced, because they have no association with the operation of that facility. So that's what that means.
And that's what I don't like. If
Okay.
they're not owned or operated by that facility, they're outside companies. It might be, say it's Bass Pro Shops there, and someone's coming from a boat company and dropping off a boat and want their vehicles worked on. I don't feel that should be allowed. That they should go to a facility where they pay and it's regulated.
Well, these sites will be regulated. You shouldn't infer that the site's not going to be regulated. It will be regulated.
I don't know. I am just Explain what I
It starts
feel.
with you as the regulating agency. So I'm not sure what you're talking about. And if they go out, if they're going to service anybody else's vehicles, they have to have a license to do that. So it will be regulated. Again, it starts with you guys as the regulating agency.
I just don't want it to blow up where it's a company that becomes their second job there is, or their second business is working on these outside companies' vehicles. It should be only the people that, or the business that has their facility there.
Okay,
That's my take. That's what I feel. That's
understood,
what I would vote for.
understood.
Okay, I see Mr. Natale with a hand up, and I don't have everybody on my screen, so anyone that wants to speak, please just chime in. So,
Mr. Dawson, want to go first, or?
No, that's fine. I relinquish my time to you.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. So, Bill, I agree with Rob, but I have to say I also disagree with him. And I'm hoping that when this goes to a public hearing, we could have a little more information, because I'm not in the trucking industry. I'm not in the warehouse industry. I'd like to know what the norms are for a large operator. I want to make sure that Cheshire is business friendly. So if an Amazon came in, is that their norm, where they would also service, other companies coming in for that? Whether it's in town, Bazzuto's, Whole Foods, anything else like that. I'd like to have that information, and maybe
What would you like to know specifically?
I'd like to know if that's the norm for the industry, for this type of warehouse.
It's hard to, I wouldn't call it a norm. I would say it's a practice that exists in the industry. So go ahead. I understand, but go ahead.
No, I am not educated enough on that.
Yeah.
I agree with, initially, I agree with Rob on what he's saying, but I'd like to educate myself a little more, because I don't want
Yeah.
to scare somebody away if, again, it's not a norm, but if that's, something that the direction this industry is going in, I think we should consider it.
Okay, I understand.
I'd like to add something when I can, EJ.
sure, Mr. Stroll.
I do work for Amazon. Okay. What a lot of it, like in Amazon might own 100,000 trailers, right? And they might lease on to other companies to move their trailers. So I'm Jim's Trucking, and I'm leased on with Amazon, and I'm moving Amazon's trailers, Amazon's equipment. And I pull into the lot and I blow a tire, right? My truck isn't owned by Amazon's, but I'm leased to Amazon for their work. So maybe they might change my tire. I think that's what Bill is trying to say of that. That's the dynamic. As far as a lot of the transportation companies will have an excessive amount of trailers, more so than tractors. And today's shortage of tractors and drivers, they're doing a lot of hiring out. So I see that with Amazon. We do a lot of work for them. So now we're going to all the different terminals and moving stuff around. But the storage, the regular trailers that they're loading stuff on are getting shipped with trucks other than Amazon trucks. So that's for instance, and Jeff, that's kind of what I'm trying to explain to you, that, they might have 1,000 trailers there, but they only have 100 tractors. Everything else is leased out to other companies of, independents and whatever that lease on to those companies. So,
Gotcha. Thanks. That does help. Thank you.
okay. Thanks, Jeff.
And those leased trucks, I mean, they're serviced by the person that owns and leases the truck. So where I understand a flat tire, and I almost think
and usually they in-house. So he gets to the scene, and let's say the lights don't work on the, you know what I mean? It could be a simple fix. I mean, and if they have somebody there to do something like that, he's not going to do an engine job in the parking lot, but there are certain small things that when Bill explained it to me, I started really thinking about it, and I started thinking of Amazon, that style company, and that would be distribution. So they're having multiple trailers. Jim's trucking pulls in, he hooks up, so it either has a flat tire, a mud flap that got ripped off. I mean, it could be a simple safety issue that could be quick. As far as a truck repair doing a brake job or something, I don't think that's going to happen on scene. and that's not going to happen unless it's going into a shop. I mean, if it's going to go into a shop, I fully agree with Rob. But if it's going to be an on-site repair in that, you know, in the yard or whatever to get the guy out of there, that's a small repair. So I don't know how you distinguish what small repair or limitation. That's what we would have to do if
There's a way to do that. I mean, there are maintenance items. There are limited repairs. I want to be careful with the terminology because limited repairs in DMV's regulations. We can let you see what that is. We can get.
Yeah,
what
I mean,
the
when you say it's a
repair license
safety,
is.
any kind of safety hazard that could be
Yeah.
repaired within 1 hour or something, you know what I mean? But
Well,
but
yeah,
like,
whatever the time is, it's not like we're going to regulate the time, but I understand safety issues. I mean, there's ways to refine that language. No question about it.
yeah,
Oil
I'm
change.
going to get a oil change. I'm going in to get my brakes done. I'm going into, and that just seemed kind of way out of the norm.
I agree with that. You know,
But I wasn't thinking, I mean, if someone needs to fix a tire, you know, you fix the tire. You're not going to call Stroh's to tow the guy somewhere else to
yeah,
fix his
that's
tire.
what I'm saying. It makes sense for them to do that. So
I see Mr. Mercado again. He's going crazy with his hand.
So that leads me back to, so if they're leasing through another company, that's that, you know, they're not owned, they're operated by, they have an agreement together. I'm thinking of Purdue's coming in to dump a bunch of chicken off into the warehouse, and it's Purdue owned truck. Now they're going to do service on that. I also worried about the verbiage so that something else happens, a different company come in, they're smaller, and they set up a second business, a second bay that is for servicing. And can they backdoor it? So now they're a service company for these trucks because it's a doing business as, and they have a service center. I'm afraid that this is a backdoor if we don't close it or write it better so that we're better protected. I do agree, you know, if it's John's Trucking and they're licensed through Amazon, yeah, I have no problem. They got to do that kind of work, even a little brake job or something like that, because they're part of that company and licensed with them.
This is
Great.
Mr. Anderson. And
Yes.
At least personally, I'd like to just know whether or not the word associated, how that compares to perhaps other towns that have similar regulations.
No. We didn't go and do like any Google search. It was a way to initiate this discussion. How's that?
No, I'm sure. My only concern with limiting it is just whether or not that would leave us at a disadvantage. I mean, for instance, if somebody's coming in and they see that language compared to the language of associated, whether that would raise additional questions. That's my only concern.
Well, you know, we can look at, first of all, we can show you, there's no rush on this, guys. It's not like you got to go to hearing in 2 weeks, okay? We'll get the language that, what's contained in limited repairs license. We can take a look at some maintenance types in language, putting it in there for you. I mean, really what the consideration was when we drafted it was, how do we maximize the potential for efficiency? And that was to allow these vehicles to be serviced. You guys want to not allow it, it's fine. But it wasn't meant to, like, we're not trying to set up, you know, as a truck stop. That's not what this is. It's not a servicing. It's meant that they have to, you know, and I meant with associated with was in some way related to the operation, including delivery or pickup from the facility. So we can get you additional language on it, and then you can see what that'll mean. So.
Mr. Chairman,
Linder.
if I could, yeah. So, I mean, I agree that the word associated or related to is a little bit vague, but what we're really talking about are trucks that are in the process of delivering to the on-site facility and or leaving from the on-site facility. Why don't we just have language somewhat to that?
Sure.
Isn't that what
Then
we're?
you guys have to decide. I mean, Rob's not comfortable with, you know, the idea that you're servicing a vehicle that's not owned or operated by the owner of the facility. Well, it's okay. So you can do that, Gil, but it doesn't satisfy that concern.
I mean, maybe that's the associated means they're licensed with them. They have a contract with them. They're maybe there's a different word that includes companies that are just dropping off, that aren't associated, that are just doing a delivery. That's my concern.
Well, the thing is, guys, we need to know from an enforcement standpoint what you're gonna want, or if we're gonna write this regulation, what do you want to allow? You want to allow Brucado's Avocados trucking to get his oil change while he's there, or don't you? And if you don't, right, you should say that.
I wish I owned that business.
Yeah, you're working on it. Yeah, yeah. So, but that, we need to know that. We need to know what you're comfortable with.
All right, Jeff, you've had a couple chances. I see Mr. Bowman has some, he wants the floor, so we'll come right back to you.
I guess my hand wasn't high enough, EJ. I'm sorry.
You know what, I don't have the whole screen, so I can't see everybody. So if there's someone else out there that's putting their hand up, I don't have everyone's thing on my screen, so.
All right. Well, the comments I initially had were not, had to do with height, but I think I'll get back to them and stick to the subject that we're discussing now. In today's corporate environment, or environment in general, everyone is trying to be efficient. And someone made the point that I'm not professing for Purdue chicken or anything, but if a Purdue chicken truck comes up loaded and it's going to take 2 hours to unload, maybe that truck needs to be serviced. And I say serviced, I'm not talking about a brake job because they're not doing that in 2 hours. I'm not talking about a motor overhaul because they're not going to do that in 2 hours. I'm talking about something as simple as a lube oil and filter, or maybe a brake adjustment, or, you know, someone had mentioned before, maybe there's a light out or something like that. Something, I don't want to use the term light service because I really don't want to, you know, to inhibit any type of service whatsoever. But again, people want to be efficient. And if they've got 2 hours of downtime or 3 hours of downtime while they're being unloaded, you know, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world that we allow them the ability to, you know, to be serviced. And again, I'm not talking about anything major. I'm talking about simple service. And I think Sean had picked up on that. And that's just, you know, that just goes with, you know, I hope with what everybody else is saying.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Bowman. Mr. Natale.
So I agree with what Rob is saying. I don't want to see this as a backdoor for a secondary business or another type of business opening up. So why don't we just put language in there? You know, whether if we say this has to be associated, like Mr. Bowman said, Purdue, whoever's coming in, it's associated delivery, whatever, it's good. But you know, can we add some language in there that says we do not? Sorry, Mr. Strello's making me laugh. Sorry. Can we put some language in there that precludes somebody from opening a standalone repair business or as a secondary business?
Yes. Well, what's written on right now won't allow them to do that. It's a warehouse distribution facility. It's not a motor vehicle repair facility. But yes.
I just want to straight. I mean, like Rob said, and so it doesn't need an explanation. So there's no interpretation. Let's just put affirmative language in there. This is not allowed.
Yeah.
That way, you know, again, if that Purdue truck comes in or something, they can still do that. We're not taking away from them running the business, or whether it's leased or whether it's owner operator, whatever it is, but we would stop them from having a separate business.
I understand.
Or maybe there's a not a time limit to say, but you know, you talk about you bringing something in, you get 2-3 hours to unload, you want to do a service, that's fine. Maybe you put something in, the truck cannot be in the service bay or on the property to be serviced for more than 2-3 days or something to that effect, which would eliminate some bigger.
EJ, the limitation has to be no fluids in the yard done, because that's what we need to do because the aquifer protection. So I think that has to be a restriction, because you don't want them changing the oil or fueling in the yard. If they have to fuel a truck, have them pull it in and put it inside someplace where they contain it. You know what I mean? So that's a definite problem. You know, And you know, like anything else, like you said, light safety, mud flap, whatever, limitation to, you know, I don't know how you limitation hours or whatever, but I think the fluids is the biggest thing. That's the biggest thing. We have to protect our water.
Yeah, we can't enforce hours, guys. We have no way to track that, so.
No.
Okay, Mr. What's the floor?
I mean, they're gonna be doing these things with their own trucks anyway, though. They're gonna be changing oil, using fluids, doing brake jobs, doing all these things on their own trucks, which we're not objecting to. I don't know, I have a position one way or another yet, but can somebody tell me why we would not want to let them do these more substantial jobs on trucks that are coming to their facility anyway? If you're coming to deliver chickens or avocados or whatever, or to pick something up, and you're there anyhow, why can't they do it? Is there a good reason why we shouldn't?
It's a state regulation because you're not, I'm sorry to interrupt, but Lou, it's a state regulation. You can't work on a vehicle without having a license.
But they would have a license. They would have to get a license. Assume they get a license.
Yeah, if they get the license, then they're fine. That's not a problem. But you know, like it's you have to have a license in order to work on somebody else's vehicle. Because then your insurance and all that is covered. But what they're asking is not to have a license and still be able to do it. So that's a limited repair. So what I'm saying is, when I said before, is a limited repair would be like a tire change or a light or something like that. That's where it would be okay because that's a safety factor. But going into any type of servicing or whatever, that they would need to have a license to do it on other than their own trucks, unless that company was leased onto them and had a contract to do that servicing. So it'd have to be a service contract with the company, and they would have to be leased onto them. So
yeah, I think the intention is that they would actually get a repairer's license if we allowed the associated traffic to be repaired by whoever the owner of the warehouse is. I think that they would have to get a license. And the question
here's, and I got to bring this point up, Bill, and I thought about that. So now in this reg, we've said, okay, we're going to allow a dealer repair license. So now I own a big car dealership, and I look at that lot up there, and I go, you know what? There's this. I want to put a car dealership up there. I could come in and say, hey, you're going to let the trucking company have a repair license, dealer license. Now you're not going to let me put a car dealership up there?
Car dealer is not permitted use in the interchange zone.
It's still a dealer's repairs license. You really you got a real thin hair there because you can't not give it to the other guy when you're giving it to them.
Sure you can.
So, that's the
But
back
I understand
door.
your point, but
You know, I mean, I would definitely be like, okay, that's not fair to me if I wanted to open that business up there because, you know, you're allowing the trucking company to get a repair license. Why wouldn't you allow me to have a dealer's license up there? So
we allow dealer licenses in other districts and.
No, I'm just saying that, you know.
Yeah. I'm not worried about that as a shoehorn. You don't have to approve that. You guys don't have to approve any of it. So.
It's special.
There's no way we're talking about trucking and warehouse facility. I think Mr. Tedeschi still had the floor. You kind of jumped on top of him. I want to make sure.
I'm sorry, Will. Sorry about that.
Chance to speak.
No, I've made my points. I still haven't heard a strong reason why we wouldn't permit it. Assuming that the warehousing company also got the repairer's license. If we decide we don't want to have repairers there up there, even though they're only doing it on associated trucks, that's fine. But I still haven't heard a real good planning and zoning reason why we would say no to it. It wouldn't increase traffic. I mean, the trucks are going to be there anyway. Now, there may be, the point was raised, I guess to be more work then, perhaps there are more environmental concerns then. That's a valid issue. If that's what the concern is, I mean, that certainly has validity. But I just wanted to raise the issue and see what people had to say. I've had the floor long enough. Thank you, Earl.
Okay, thanks, Lou. Mr. Bowman, again, you'd like to speak?
Yeah, as far as fluids in an aquifer zone, Whole Foods cannot do any type of repairs there. I was on the Wetlands Commission when that was approved. And I don't think there's a Wetlands Commission in America that would approve a servicing center in the aquifer zone. So certainly they have enough property outside of that zone to be able to to be sure, and we could be sure that this is outside of any aquifer zone that we have in Cheshire.
Well, yeah, and remember, you still have the Regional Water Authority as your partner in anything that's related to the aquifer district, so.
And EJ, I'm going to get out of the service business right now. And thank you, Lou, for mentioning avocados. I wanted to get away from the chickens. But I think we're going to discuss those later. Anyway, I would like to see some sort of language for additional height. Your warehouse facilities today tend to be higher and more automated. So I would like to have some sort of allowability for a height up to 75 feet, even if it had to be set further back like it is in the industrial zone. But I would like to have that put in there somewhere also, if no one has a problem with that.
We already have a height of 100 feet.
Not in the interchange zone.
Oh, I'm sorry.
What is it, 65?
Yeah, I believe it is, yeah. We can take a look at it. We can craft something for you for discussion.
Thank you, Bill.
Yep.
So do we have any control over building type? Because I know one time they were looking at a building that the outside structure of the building was, I believe, like a type of shelving. So it depreciated in 5 years and it reduced the town tax income. I know we're not supposed to have purview into how much money we make or the taxes in this town, but do we have anything in there that says you can't, the building you build, it was always going to be taxable in Cheshire?
You can't, that's not within your authority under the statute, so.
Whose authority is that?
The General Assembly does not give the Planning and Zoning Commission any ability to require any buildings to be taxed for any reason, so.
Okay, anyone else? Yeah, Mr. Ricardo, you still have the floor.
On section 48.4.b, the off-street loading area. Bill, can you explain that a little bit to me?
Yeah, well, what I'm trying to make that is the same as it is for the industrial zones, which has, the interchange zone right now requires a larger setback for loading areas, but it doesn't allow warehousing. So the amendment, which would allow warehousing, would anticipate that there'd be a need to have loading areas, and by requiring a larger setback, the 70-foot setback, you're using up a lot of the land for buffer area. And again, you already allow it up to 20 feet in the industrial zones. And I'm trying to make it consistent with the requirements set forth in the industrial zones. And then we have a screening requirement for it as well. But to require that additional setback, I say it's consumptive. It uses up a lot of land in order to get to enable a loading area, and reduces the flexibility on the site for site planning, and constrains the layout choices. So that's why I wrote it that way.
Can it be set up so if it's adjacent to existing residential, that it stays a larger distance of 50 feet maybe?
Well, what do you mean residential district?
No, like residential property. If there's already a house there or a street that's adjacent to it or behind it, that we keep that setback, or
Generally,
don't all the way down to 20?
Remember though, you'd require an additional setback against a non-conforming use. Why would you do that?
What do you mean non-conforming? I'm looking out for the residents of Cheshire. So if there's a house that's on a street that backs up to one of these properties.
Well, what zone is that house in, Rob?
I don't care.
Oh, okay.
They're here before the business. What I'm saying is, if it's pre-existing residential, that they keep a larger setback, maybe 50 feet, maybe it doesn't have to be the full 70.
Yeah, that's generally not consistent with good practice, okay? It'd be one thing if the property was zoned for residential purposes. It's quite different if it's used for residential purposes, because the residence is a non-conforming use. And the purpose of zoning really is to, over time, eliminate the nonconformities. So you're burdening the new user against a non-conforming use with the intention of someday that non-conforming use won't be there anymore.
So none of these
I'm
properties.
questioning, why would you do that?
None of these properties butt up against residential zoned areas?
No.
There's a buffer between residential and,
Well, we'll take a look at it, but I understand your point, but I don't think we have any residential up there.
I mean, and then that's fine. I'm just worried
Yeah.
about the resident getting.
Yeah, I understand your point, but I don't think we have any residential. I'll check.
Okay.
Mr. Bowen,
Rob, if you look at the 3 parcels that are being considered in the interchange zone, 2 of them have significant wetlands in them that would actually buffer any type of residential. The third one, the way I look at it, they're on both parcels. The southeast part, there's I believe there's 2 homes in that zone, and on the southwest portion there is 1 home that is there. But other than that, if you go down to the Birch Drive area, again, there's a significant wetland in there that is going to buffer that from the residents. And I see your point, but I think nature is kind of pretty much taking care of that for you.
Then that works for me. I'm just without looking at the maps like that. I'm just looking out for the residents first.
We'll check, Rob, okay? I'll look it over for you. I get your point.
anyone else before we move on? Anything to say? Okay. Since that was such a fun discussion, we're going to jump into another discussion. The bill was contacted from a young lady who would like us to look at our chicken regulations. In the packet, everyone got her little Gracie Thomas was her name. She did a little layout for us to talk about why she thinks we should change our regulations, including using other towns as examples. And I kind of want to put this on as a discussion. I did speak with her. She's a very smart girl, and if we can have a discussion on it tonight, but maybe we can do some changes. And she agreed that if we did bring this forward and had a public hearing, she would also come and speak to us to let her know what her thoughts were. So basically, I'll just open up again the discussion. Or actually, if you want to start, Bill, if you want to.
Just briefly, some of the commission members may recall that we did a revision to the regulations back in 2009. And we had looked at a number of municipalities then. It was actually the initiative came from the Zoning Board of Appeals because they're getting a lot of variances requests. And we reduced the requirement for chickens to 2 acres. So it's not that long ago that we did it. But there's some interest out there, at least having you guys consider options. It's really up to you as to what you want to do. So
I guess open up Mr. Bricado first. I saw.
Sean was first.
Who was first?
Sean.
Sean, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Sean.
Chicken Gate 2021 again. So anyway, I was looking at the regulation. I mean, and I was thinking if we lowered the amount of chickens as we lowered the square footage, I'm okay with that. But I mean, to have 12 chickens on 20,000 square foot lot is immense. I think she did a beautiful presentation. I mean, it's awesome. I mean, I really, it makes me feel good that a younger person put all the effort into like this. I mean, I really thought that's great. But as far as roaming chickens around the neighborhood, I don't know if that's going to fare off well for all the other neighbors. I know that if I was like 2 doors down and the chicken was coming to my house, I'd send my shepherd out to get it. So, but anyway, I think that you know, as we lower the number of chickens, and then we could go into a different step. It was 12 for 80,000 square feet. So I'm thinking like if we're at 40 at 6, maybe 3 for 20, you know, something like that. So that's what I was thinking.
Well, I don't think she's talking about free range, let them run around too. I mean, we still have our regulation that says that they have to be in an enclosed
Yeah.
location, yard, and no less than 50 feet from any setback line. The 50 foot, you know, as you get smaller lots, 50 feet seems like it might not work in that area, but it's not a.
Watching chicken roam is proven to get very relaxed, especially under these stressful times. That was one of her things. So like I said, that's the only thing concern I had.
Right. Well, this is discussion, so
okay.
With you. I don't know who was next, but Mr. Mercado, you think was
Yeah,
next?
she did a wonderful job on this. I love this. I agree exactly with Sean. You know, reduce the amount for the size of the lot, reduce the setback. Don't make it so difficult. Roman chickens, they don't last too long with all the hawks that are around. I've been watching them. Some of them take flight. So, but yeah, I think we should definitely reduce it and allow this.
Well, reduce it to what?
I think we have to talk about that. Find what the right numbers are. Like Sean was saying, you know, come up with a good breakdown, divide it equally. 12's a lot, you know, for an acre. I can't, you know, 4 or 5 chickens running around or being in a coop on an acre lot. I can't see that being a problem. You definitely got to keep the roosters away. That's probably good. Didn't mean it that way. But they are loud, right? So you have to worry about your neighbors in the smaller lots.
Depends on the acreage.
Chickens
You
are.
You don't allow them now on 2 acres.
It's
Depends
not
on the
allowed.
acreage, yeah.
No, I'm just saying I wouldn't
Yeah.
change it for roosters, just for the chickens.
Mr. Natal.
Yeah, sorry, Mr. Mercado's now making me laugh. You guys are doing a good job on that tonight. So I agree. She did a great job. Gracie did a great job on this presentation. She's been very active online on that too, pushing it through. And there is actually a local farm. They are, I think, between April and October, they will deliver a small chicken coop to your house with X number of chickens, so that you can take care of them, have the eggs. Come October or September, whatever it is, they come, they pick the chickens up, they pick the pen up and bring it back. So they're making it easier for folks with less acreage to you know, be sustainable and have something good. So, you know, I'm looking forward to talking about this. I'm looking forward to hearing her come before us, and I think it's a good thing.
All right, thank you. Mr. Bowman.
Well, having grown up on Mixville Road, there were 3 chicken farms on Mixville Road. Mr. Ismail had one with hundreds of chickens. My father actually had one, and the property that I grew up on still has a chicken coop. And the property that the town bought from the Murphys had hundreds of chickens, which was directly across from Mixville Beach. So I certainly have no problems with having chickens on a 1 acre zone. I do agree. Half acre would probably be tight, but if we've got it restricted to within 50 feet of your property lines, I think that pretty much controls that situation. And I also would like to add that there should be no roosters either. Thank you.
Okay, I think in her proposal, she wanted to reduce the 50 foot, but again, we can always, we can talk to her about that and see her reasoning for that. But it would be a little tough with 50 foot from any lot line on a 1/4 acre lot for that to, and just to be in the backyard. That would be kind of tough, I think. Any other discussion on this? So the next step, is everyone comfortable with throwing it in for a public hearing? I mean, time wise.
Why don't you let us draft it up first, okay?
You want to draft it up first?
Why don't you draft it first before you commit to a, all right, because remember, we got to send it out. We got a lot of stuff to do with it, but Why don't you
And
guys, I
a
mean,
little busy too.
you're all kind of talking about it, but why don't we put it in a form first?
Okay,
And then have a discussion on that and decide what you want to do.
everyone comfortable with that? And any thoughts people have, they can email you, Bill, for
Yeah,
want to throw into,
yeah.
okay.
So we'll have it for the next meeting, one more discussion night on it before you decide what you want to do with it. How's that sound?
Yeah, we'll have something for,
Yeah.
we'll have something to look at. Okay.
Yep.
Great. Everyone got the quarterly newsletter from CFPZA. Anybody have any questions or comments on it? No. Okay.
Hold it. Let me get my agenda here. Wait a minute. Hold it. Hold it. Okay.
Ready?
Yeah.
All right. So
You got,
Under
we're
new
gonna be
business.
busy on the 10th. We've got the cottage food operator, which is pretty simple. But we
Yep.
have West Johnson Avenue, 2 applications regarding that. That on the 10th. We have an accessory apartment on the 10th. The Verigy, which is at 90 Fieldstone Court. It's a ground mount and carport solar array. That's similar to what you guys saw at the police department. It's a larger scale, but it's that kind of thing.
Okay.
And they've got, and then Brodash is in for a
Bill,
2 items,
wait.
number 5 and 6, proposing a bank at 202 and 216 Highland Avenue. So you can see we're going to be busy. We'd like then everything else, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11, which is really one large application, to begin on the 24th of May. So
Sounds
the
lovely.
applicant is aware of that, so.
Okay.
But
What,
you're going to be here on the 24th, right?
EJ,
yes, Marilyn.
is Verigy on the 10th? Bill went so quickly. I'm trying to write all this down.
Oh,
and,
sorry, Marilyn, yeah. Yeah, Verigy would be on the 10th, Marilyn, yes.
1
And-
through 6, all on the 10th, Marilyn.
Yep.
I
7
just
through all
checking so I don't get it wrong.
Yep,
Okay.
Yeah, the one's on the
And-
24th.
yeah,
7 through 11 on May 24th, correct?
yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
You bet.
Okay. Is there anything else to come before the commission tonight?
No, Mr. Chairman, I have nothing.
All right. Well, it was a good meeting, a lot of good discussion. If no one has anything else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion adjourned.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Corollo, second by Mr. Natale. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.